Hello! We are so excited to show you our native speech capabilities. Welcome back to the English journey. Today, we're discussing a challenge that many of you face: how to master English when you are your own teacher. My name is Anna, and I am here to guide you through how to study alone and still improve rapidly.
And I am Abel. I am so glad to be here with you, Anna. It is easy to feel lost when you don't have a classroom or a partner to practice with. Today, we want to talk about the secret tools of self-study and how you can turn your home into a high-speed language lab.
That is the perfect way to begin, Abel. And I want to start by saying something that might surprise many of our listeners today. You do not need a classroom to become fluent in English. In fact, some of the most fluent English speakers in the world have never sat inside a formal language classroom for a single day of their lives. They learned through books, through music, through films, through conversations with strangers on the internet, and through a deep personal commitment to their own learning journey.
That is honestly hard for me to believe sometimes, Anna. I remember when I first started trying to improve my English on my own, I felt completely alone. I thought, how can I possibly get better without someone to correct me, without someone to explain grammar to me? I would sit at my desk with my notebook and just feel stuck, like I was talking to a wall.
And that feeling is completely normal, Abel. It's one of the most common feelings that independent learners experience. But here's what most people do not realize. A classroom is actually a very limited environment for language learning. Think about it this way. In a typical language class, a student might speak for 3 to 5 minutes during an entire 1-hour lesson. The rest of the time, they're listening to the teacher, waiting for their turn, or watching other students practice. But when you study alone, you can design every single minute around your specific needs. You choose the topics, you choose the speed, you choose what to focus on today and what to leave for tomorrow. That is something a classroom can almost never give you.
I never thought about it that way. So you're saying that being alone is actually an advantage in some ways?
Exactly. The technical term for this is being an autonomous learner. Autonomy means independence and self-direction. When you are an autonomous learner, you take full responsibility for your own progress. You do not wait for someone to push you. You do not depend on a textbook to tell you what to learn next. You build a relationship with the language on your own terms, and that relationship becomes incredibly personal and incredibly strong. Studies in linguistics have shown again and again that learners who take ownership of their own learning process tend to develop more natural fluency, better long-term retention, and a deeper cultural understanding of the language than those who rely entirely on formal instruction.
That is really encouraging. But I want to ask something practical. Where do you even start? When I'm alone with my phone or my computer, there's so much English content out there, it feels overwhelming. I never know what to watch or read or listen to.
This is exactly where the 80-20 rule of language input becomes your most powerful guide. Let me explain what this means. In language acquisition, researchers, particularly the linguist Stephen Krashen, have argued that we acquire language best when we receive what he calls comprehensible input. This means language that we can mostly understand, but which contains just a small amount of new vocabulary or grammar that stretches us slightly beyond our current level. So if you understand 80% of what you are reading or hearing, and 20% is new or slightly challenging, you are sitting in what experts call the acquisition zone. That's the sweet spot for rapid improvement.
So I shouldn't be watching movies or listening to podcasts that are so difficult I understand almost nothing.
That's right. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that self-study learners make. They think that challenging themselves with very advanced material will make them improve faster. They switch on a complicated political debate, understand almost nothing, get frustrated, and give up within 10 minutes. Instead, what you want to do is find content that is engaging and interesting to you personally, and that sits just slightly above your current level. For example, if you are at a B1 intermediate level, you might watch a travel vlog where someone speaks clearly and uses everyday vocabulary. You understand most of the sentences, you pick up a few new words naturally from context, and most importantly, you enjoy the process. Enjoyment is not a luxury in language learning, it's a core ingredient.
I can really relate to that. I actually tried watching a documentary about economics once because someone told me it would help my English. I understood maybe 30% of it, and I felt terrible about myself afterward.
And that's a perfect example of input that is not comprehensible enough. Your brain cannot acquire what it cannot process. But here's the beautiful thing. If you had found a documentary about something you already loved, maybe travel, cooking, sports, or music, and that documentary was made for a general audience rather than specialists, your experience would have been completely different. You would have leaned forward. You would have been curious. You would have replayed moments because you were interested, not because you were forcing yourself. And every time you replay a sentence out of genuine curiosity, you're deepening your neural connection to that language pattern.
That makes so much sense. So the 80-20 rule is really about choosing the right material at the right level. Let me ask you about something I've heard a lot about recently. What is shadowing, and can it really help someone who is studying completely alone?
Shadowing is one of my absolute favorite techniques, and I genuinely believe it's one of the most underused tools in self-study. Let me describe exactly what it is and how to do it. Shadowing is the practice of listening to a native speaker and repeating what they say almost simultaneously, like a shadow following a person. You do not wait until they finish a sentence. You speak along with them, just a fraction of a second behind, matching their rhythm, their intonation, their stress, and their pace as closely as you can. It originally was developed as a technique for training simultaneous interpreters, but language learners discovered that it's extraordinarily powerful for developing natural speech.
But doesn't it feel very strange, like you're just mimicking someone?
It does feel strange at first, and that's completely fine. In fact, the slight discomfort you feel is a signal that your brain is working hard. When you shadow, you're training what we call your articulatory muscles. These are the muscles in your lips, your tongue, your jaw, and your throat that are responsible for producing sounds. Just like a musician practices scales to build finger muscle memory, a language learner uses shadowing to build mouth muscle memory. Over time, the sounds that once felt foreign and difficult begin to feel natural and automatic.
And can you use shadowing with any kind of content?
Yes, and this is the wonderful part. You can shadow a YouTube video, a podcast, a scene from a film, or even a short news segment. The key is to choose content where the speaker's voice is clear and their speech is not too fast. I always recommend that my students begin with short clips of about 30 to 60 seconds. They listen once without speaking, focusing entirely on the meaning and the melody of the speech. Then they listen a second time and begin shadowing. Then a third time, trying to match the speaker even more closely. After just 3 or 4 repetitions of this process with a single short clip, you'll notice that your pronunciation and rhythm have already improved for those specific phrases.
I'm going to try that tonight, honestly. Now, you also mentioned self-talk earlier. I've actually tried this, but I always run out of things to say. I just stand there thinking, and then my mind goes blank.
Self-talk is a practice that needs to be built slowly, just like a muscle. The idea is to narrate your own life in English throughout the day. When you're making breakfast, you think to yourself or say out loud, "I am putting the bread in the toaster. The coffee is ready. I need to remember to buy milk today." When you're walking to the bus stop, you describe what you see. There are 2 children playing in the garden. That car is moving very slowly. The sky looks like it might rain. This practice is powerful because it forces you to use English in real, everyday contexts without any pressure. There's no one to judge you, there's no correct answer. You're simply building the habit of thinking in English rather than translating from your native language.
And what do you do when your mind genuinely goes blank and you do not know the word for something?
That moment of going blank is actually a golden learning opportunity. Whenever your self-talk stops because you do not know a word, you make a note of it, either on your phone or in a small notebook you carry with you. Later, you look up that word, and because you genuinely needed it in a real moment of your own life, you will almost never forget it. This is called need-based vocabulary acquisition, and it is far more effective than sitting down and memorizing a list of random words from a textbook, because the words you learn from your own real moments of need are connected to your personal experience and your emotions.
That is a really elegant idea. Now, I want to ask you about dictation because I've seen some language teachers online talking about it, but I always assumed it was just an old-fashioned classroom exercise.
Dictation is one of those techniques that has been around for a very long time, and there's a very good reason for that. It works. But the modern version of dictation for self-study learners is very different from what you might remember from school. Here's how you do it. You choose a short audio clip, perhaps 30 seconds to 1 minute of clear, natural English. It could be from a podcast, a documentary, or a short speech. You listen to it once, all the way through, just to get the general meaning. Then you play it again, this time pausing every few seconds and writing down exactly what you hear, word by word, including all the small words like the, a, of, and, because. Then you play it a third time to check what you wrote. Finally, you find the transcript, if one is available, and you compare your written version to the original text.
And what does that process actually teach you?
It teaches you so many things at once, and this is why I consider it a secret weapon. First, it trains your ear to hear sounds more accurately. You begin to notice how native speakers connect words together, how the end of one word blends into the beginning of the next, and how unstressed words like to, the, and of are often reduced to very short, almost silent sounds in natural speech. Second, it improves your spelling because you're writing the words down from memory rather than copying them visually. Third, it reveals your grammar blind spots. If you consistently write there instead of they are, or miss the third-person singular s in sentences, dictation will show you those patterns very clearly. And fourth, it forces you to focus on every single word in a sentence, which builds a deep, precise relationship with the language.
I love how dictation works on so many levels at once. Now let's talk about something I think a lot of our listeners struggle with. How do you actually change your environment to be surrounded by English when your whole daily life is in another language?
This is what I call creating an artificial immersion environment, and it is one of the most transformative things a self-study learner can do. Immersion, in the traditional sense, means living in a country where the language is spoken around you constantly. But you can create a version of this experience at home, and I want to walk you through exactly how to do it systematically. The first and most immediate step is to change the language settings on every device you own. Your phone, your laptop, your tablet, your social media apps, your navigation app, everything switches to English today. This might feel uncomfortable for the first few days, but discomfort in language learning is almost always a signal of growth.
I actually did this with my phone a few years ago, and I was surprised how quickly I got used to it. I started learning vocabulary I had never seen in any textbook just from my daily phone use.
Exactly, and that's the power of environmental design. When the language is embedded in the small moments of your daily life, your brain begins to associate English with real, functional activity rather than with studying and effort. The second step is to audit your media consumption. Look at what you watch, what you listen to, and what you read every single day, and ask yourself honestly, how much of this could I replace with English content that I would genuinely enjoy? If you listen to music while you cook, could you listen to English music and read the lyrics? If you watch a comedy series in the evenings, could you find an English language comedy series that makes you laugh just as much? If you read news articles on your phone in the morning, could you switch to an English news source that covers topics you care about?
But what about when the English content is just not as good as the content in your own language? Sometimes I try to switch and I just miss what I'm used to.
That is a very honest and very real challenge. And my answer is that you do not have to make the switch all at once. You can begin with a 50-50 ratio. Keep half of your media in your native language and replace the other half with English content. Over time, as your comfort level grows and you start finding English content that you genuinely love, the ratio will naturally shift. The goal is not to eliminate your own language or your own culture. The goal is to make English a natural, comfortable, and enjoyable part of your daily existence, so that it stops feeling like something you study and starts feeling like something you live.
Let us talk about motivation now, Anna, because this is something I struggle with personally. There are days when I sit down to study and I just feel completely flat. I do not feel excited. I feel like I'm not improving. I feel like I've been at the same level for months. What do you do on those days?
Those days are real, and every single learner experiences them, whether they are studying alone or in a classroom. But they're especially intense for independent learners because there's no external accountability. No teacher is going to notice if you skip a day. No classmate is going to ask where you were. It's entirely up to you, and that can feel very heavy on the hard days. The first thing I want to say is that a lack of motivation on any given day is not a sign that you're failing. It's a completely normal part of any long-term learning process. And the learners who ultimately succeed are not the ones who are always motivated. They are the ones who have built systems and habits that carry them through the days when motivation is low.
Can you give an example of a system like that?
Of course. One of the most effective systems is what I call the minimum viable study session. On a good day, you might study for 90 minutes with full focus and enthusiasm. But on a difficult day, your only rule is that you must do at least 15 minutes of English exposure. It doesn't have to be intense. It doesn't have to be productive in any measurable way. It might just be listening to an English podcast while you drink your morning tea, or reading a single article, or watching one short YouTube video in English. The purpose of the minimum viable session is to keep the habit alive, even when the energy is not there, because habits that are maintained consistently, even at a very low level, are far easier to rebuild than habits that are completely abandoned and must be started again from scratch.
That 15-minute rule feels very manageable. I think the problem for me has always been that I expect every session to be a breakthrough, and when it's not, I feel like I wasted my time.
And this connects to something very important, which is how you measure progress. Most language learners measure their progress incorrectly. They look for dramatic improvements from one day to the next, and because language development is gradual and mostly invisible in the short term, they conclude that nothing is happening. But here's what is actually happening. Every time you encounter a word in context, your brain is building a slightly stronger connection to that word. Every time you hear a grammatical pattern, that pattern is being consolidated in your long-term memory. Every time you shadow a sentence, your articulatory muscles are becoming slightly more comfortable with those sounds. None of these individual moments feel like progress, but 6 months of consistent study creates a transformation that will genuinely astonish you.
So it's about trusting the process even when you can't see the results yet. Now, I want to ask you about the mirror method because I've heard you mention this before and I find it a little bit embarrassing to think about, honestly.
I completely understand the embarrassment, and I want to address it directly. The mirror method involves standing or sitting in front of a mirror and speaking English to your own reflection, treating yourself as a conversation partner. Now, I know this sounds strange, and the first time most people try it, they feel quite self-conscious. But there's a very specific reason why this technique is so valuable. When you speak without a mirror, you're only focused on the words and the grammar. But when you speak in front of a mirror, you begin to observe your own facial expressions, your eye contact, your posture, and the physical confidence of your body. And all of these things are a huge part of communication.
So it's not just about the words you're saying.
Not at all. Communication is multidimensional. Research suggests that a significant portion of communication is nonverbal, transmitted through our body language, our facial expressions, and our eye contact. And many language learners, even those with very good grammar and vocabulary, struggle in real conversations because they're physically tense, they avoid eye contact, and their face doesn't match what they're saying. The mirror gives you the opportunity to practice looking confident and relaxed while you speak, even before you feel confident inside. You can practice your introduction. You can practice describing your job or your hobbies. You can practice answering common interview questions. And you can watch yourself and ask, do I look like someone who believes in what they are saying?
That's a completely different way of thinking about speaking practice. I'm actually going to put a small mirror on my desk. What would you suggest saying during a mirror practice session for someone at an intermediate level?
I would suggest starting with what I call opinion statements. These are sentences that begin with phrases like, I think that, in my opinion, I believe that, or one thing I've noticed is. Choose a topic that you genuinely have thoughts about. It could be something as simple as what makes a good morning routine, or what you would do if you had 1 extra hour every day. Speak for 2 minutes without stopping. Don't worry about mistakes, just keep talking. Then watch your face in the mirror. Did you smile naturally? Did you look engaged? Did your expression match your words? Then try again, and this time, focus on looking even more relaxed and open. The combination of speaking practice and physical self-awareness that the mirror provides is something that almost no other solo technique can replicate.
Nana, I feel like everything we've talked about today forms a kind of complete system. Input, output, environment, motivation, physical practice. It's not just one trick, it's a whole approach to living with the language.
That's exactly the right way to see it, Abel. And I want to close with something I feel very strongly about. Self-study is not the backup plan for people who can't afford a school or who can't find a teacher. For many learners, it's actually the superior path. Because when you design your own learning environment, when you choose your own content, when you build your own habits, and when you solve your own problems, you're not just learning English, you're developing a profound and lasting relationship with the language that no curriculum can give you. You're building the kind of fluency that lives inside you, not on a test paper.
And I think the most important thing I'm taking away from today is that progress is always happening, even on the quiet days, even on the frustrating days, and that the learner who keeps going consistently, even slowly, will always reach further than the learner who studies intensely for a short time and then stops.